Good afternoon. I'd like to call the Health and Human Services and Aging Committee to order. Today is Wednesday, July 30th. Madam Clerk, can I have a roll call, please?
As a reminder to all in attendance, this meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the county's YouTube page. Calling the roll, Ms. Conwell. Present. Mr. Sweeney is absent. Mr. Castleberry.
Here.
Mr. Hauser is absent. Mr. Schlepper. Here. You have a quorum.
All right. Madam Clerk, is there any public comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have public comment. Brandon West.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Brandon West, and I'm a grassroots advocate from Lorain working across Ohio to help protect LGBTQIA+ youth from the harm of conversion therapy. Later in the meeting, when the conversion therapy ban will be discussed more in depth, I'll speak more about it then. So I wanted to dedicate this part of my time speaking and take the time to honor a Lorain City police officer, Philip Wagner, who was violently ambushed, attacked, and who sadly passed. It is such a tragedy that was felt not only in Lorain, but across Ohio and beyond. And it would be remiss of me, as a Lorain resident, not to take this moment to honor his memory, his incredible work and contribution to our community, and to also extend my deepest and heartfelt sympathies to his loved ones, fellow officers, and all who knew him. Moments like this should remind us of the weight of public service and the importance of standing together in the face of violence and loss. His legacy of dedication will not be forgotten. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Let the record reflect that Mr. Hauser is in attendance. Lou?
Good afternoon. I'm glad to see our agenda having important issues listed here. First of all, definitely I would support to ban the practice of conversion therapies on minor and vulnerable adults. I wish this ban will protect everybody in the county. However, I would like to mention that in the whole history in this country, we have all kinds of ridiculous conversion therapies, including some of the things may not really go to the national level for people to be very aware of them. For example, there were conversion therapies for left-handed people. There were conversion therapies for people. Nowadays, we can identify them clearly as people having developmental disabilities. All these conversion therapies are giving people traumas after traumas. So I really wish we can have a ban on all these unscientific convention therapies. Because all these things happen on people, probably in your DNA, but definitely most of them, or even all of them, are not a choice, not something people do by choice. So I think to use resources, precious resources, to have a conversion therapies on the people for the things they cannot even choose to begin with is very wrong, fundamentally wrong. So now it goes to the place I stay. Right now, almost 2 weeks, we have no drinking water delivered, even there's a contract on. 62 days, the area I sleep had a Wi-Fi issue, but now today, the whole facility has no Wi-Fi for everybody. Now, another topic is about jail. Please, put us into the jail, because jail will have everything we, the unhoused, need. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, is there anyone else signed in?
Madam Chair, 2 individuals have submitted public comment by email in regards to ordinance 2025-0003. Their comments have been emailed to all the council members.
Thank you. So that
And there is
concludes-
no other public comment.
Okay. Approval of the minutes from the July 2nd, 2025 meeting.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Schlepper, seconded by Castleberry. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. We have some changes to the agenda today, matters referred to the committee. will be the ordinance. We will take that last. Our item B, the pregnancy care in the jail due to Officer Wagner's processional today. The sheriffs wanted to participate in that, so we will reschedule that. And so now we will hear the strategic plan development report by Agency Director of Catholic Charities, Carnice McKenzie.
And let the record reflect that Council President Miller is in attendance.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, President, Vice President, and council members. I'd like to take some time to thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you the incredible impact that the funding for our strategic plan has brought to St. Martin de Porres, or has made to St. Martin de Porres Family Center. Just for the record, I'll state my name, Carnice McKenzie, Agency Director with Catholic Charities Corporation. But we're deeply grateful for your belief in our mission and your commitment to helping us grow stronger, smarter, and more sustainable. You may know this is my third time before you. I came before you in 2022, 2023, when I sought funding for a strategic plan. I shared that plan with all of the council members who were present that day. And if you recall, everyone received a booklet with the strategic plan outlining our goals and objectives for 2024 through 2027. Today, I'm before you to say that we've made incredible progress. Today, I want to walk you through the tangible outcomes your support has made possible and how it is helping us to build capacity, expand our reach, and lay the foundation for long-term success. Many of you may know St. Martin de Porres is located in Glenville community. We serve the Glenville residents proudly, and not only Glenville, but the surrounding neighborhoods in Cuyahoga County at large. I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the key areas that the capacity funding that I came back to in last year and asked for the additional funding to help us with capacity building. Number one, our strategic planning and leadership efforts. Your funding allowed us to bring on Rosa Consulting Services, whose strategic planning expertise has been very transformative. With their guidance, we used a strategic plan to identify critical areas of organizational improvement. We prioritized funding needs and enhanced our programs and initiatives aligned with our Catholic Charities mission. This wasn't just a plan. It was a living roadmap that actively drives our growth and decision-making. I want to talk to you, number two, about building our development and communications teams, which your funding has allowed us to do. Through Rosa Consulting, we were able to bring on two key professionals who have significantly strengthened our outreach and fundraising capacity. We brought on a fund development consultant as a part of our team in February of 2025. This role has been very instrumental in identifying new donors and sponsors. They've already committed to securing $10,000 in new funding and laying the groundwork for long-term donor engagement and sustainability. We also was able to bring on a social media consultant through Rosa Consulting. This consultant has worked with us in capturing our client and community stakeholders' testimonies. That's vitally important. And is producing a compelling, impactful video to be showcased at our upcoming fundraiser and across our digital platforms and our Facebook page. I would like to mention our fundraiser is scheduled for October 18th this year at the Western Reserve Historical Society. Program starts at 11 a.m. to 2. In addition, we have not only elevated our visibility, but also enhanced our ability to tell our story and connect with supporters in a very meaningful way. The third thing I'd like to discuss is our facilities improvements, from which your funding has allowed us to do. The funding has helped us leverage additional resources to complete major renovations that directly impact the dignity and experience of our clients. We've had a number of renovations that started. One was our senior department, where we serve our seniors Monday through Friday from 9 to 2. The bathrooms were severely in need of updating. I don't think they had been updated since maybe the late 80s, maybe 90s, okay? So you can imagine that. We completed those renovations in we completed those renovations in June of 2024. It was a complete tear out with new fixtures, lighting, flooring, toilets, handicap accessible, with a total project cost of $176,200. We were able to do that with the help of Catholic Charities. Youth services bathrooms were completed as well this year in February of 2025, with similar upgrades. Bathrooms, again, hadn't been updated since maybe in the 80s, in the early 90s. So you can imagine. That total project cost was $87,100. We also, our president and CEO, our panel in our gym, our acoustics in our gym, if you've come to visit us, it's not the best. So Catholic Charities has invested in making sure our acoustic gym panels helps improve our sound quality in our gym. And that projected cost is about $28,723. That work is scheduled to begin sometime in August or September of 2025, this year. These improvements were a part of our strategic plan and long overdue, as you all know, and have made a significant difference in the comfort and safety of our clients and people who visit our building. The fourth thing I'd like to talk about is our program expansions and new initiatives. Your investment helped us unlock new partnerships and funding opportunities. This year, we had a private donor contribute $27,000 to provide scholarship for families who couldn't afford summer camp programs in partnership with St. Aloysius Elementary School. The second thing we're looking forward to is our job and career and training hub with Catholic Charities. This is an internal partnership. This is a new workforce development initiative derived strictly from our strategic plan. Our Catholic Charities grant writing team submitted a grant this year, July 18th, to support a hub that will be housed at St. Martin de Porres Family Center. This will serve as an additional location for our Catholic Charities Job and Career Training Center. This program targets TANF-eligible families to help them move towards self-sufficiency through job readiness, career counseling, and placement. We did not have such programs before we started the strategic plan. So this was one of the goals that was outlined in our strategic plan, and now we're seeing some wheels to start turning, and hopefully we'll land on that funding. The other funding that we're seeking or have sought was emergency assistance grant. Our Catholic Charities Writing Team secured an additional $5,000 to help, this is new funding, to help provide food pantry support and direct client assistance for rental and utility assistance in 2024. In August, August 1st, we'll be submitting another grant for emergency assistance for the total amount of $10,000 to provide again, additional funding to help our clients and residents with food pantry support. That's purchasing food for our food pantry and rental and utility assistance. The last thing under program expansions and new initiatives is our youth and recreation. A private donor through the Jewish Federation of Cleveland just committed $50,000 for gym renovations and youth basketball programming for St. Martin de Porres. I'm over the moon, okay? These initiatives are not only expanding our services, they are deepening our impact in the community. The fifth thing, let's talk about a return on our investment. The capacity dollars that I came before you to seek helped us bring in experts as a catalyst to our investment. It's done a number of things. It helped us to, and I just read them off, but it helped us to secure $100,000 and secured potential funding, new funding opportunities. So secured and or potential new funding, $100,000. Our strategic plan, our strategic infrastructure as outlined in our strategic plan will continue to generate funding opportunities, donors, and spearhead growth. 3, the funding has allowed us to enhance our visibility and donor engagement. And lastly, this funding has allowed us to create new programs, have better facilities, and to increase our capacity to serve more clients. This wasn't just capacity building. It was capacity unleashing. In closing, your support has been a game changer. You just didn't fund a consultant service. You helped us build a stronger, more resilient organization that's better equipped to serve our community. While we recognize challenges lie ahead of us, given the state of America today, our hope, determination, and commitment remain strong. Our strategic plan is not just a roadmap. It is a promise to stay focused, prepared, and resilient to help us sustain the vital programs and services that benefit our residents and clients. Thank you for believing in us and giving us the funding that we needed. Is our hope that you see the value that's reflected in the work we've done so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. I'd just like to state that also St. Martin de Porres Center is connected with our visitation, our Department of Children and Family Services, our Department of Senior and Adult Services,
Yes.
maybe Family First Council, I don't know.
Yes,
But
starting
yeah,
point, yes.
they are connected in many ways and offer a lot of programs that is connected with us. So it's very fitting that the council saw the potential to expand with resources of the ARPA funds in order for the strategic plan to get finalized and finished. Any questions for the director? Basically, she's here to report, but if there's any questions, I'm sure she will take them.
Yeah.
Seeing none, we want to thank you and
All right.
continue to do the same great work in the community
Thank
that you
you.
do.
I thank you all again. We couldn't have done this without your support. Take care.
All right, Madam Clerk, who will come up and present for the, why do I see three things on here? Okay.
The second
Never mind.
presentation is being held.
Right, I see it's sectioned off. So as I stated earlier, the pregnancy care in the jail conversation will be rescheduled. So I have several speakers that will speak to the ordinance. Madam Clerk, if you can read the ordinance into record, please.
Ordinance 2025-0003, amending sections 501.15, 505.03, and 1501.03A, and enacting section 1501.08 of the Cuyahoga County Code to prohibit the practice of conversion therapy on minors and vulnerable adults.
Turn it over to my colleague, Councilman Schlepper, to introduce it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say a couple words, and then we had a couple of other folks that are going to be speaking in support of, and also a legal presentation to kind of work us through the nuts and bolts. But I feel very honored to be able to introduce this and to hear it in committee today. I think it's a relatively simple proposition. If there is, in fact, a practice that's happening in our county that causes young people to either take their lives or attempt to take their lives, that's something that should be illegal, and it's something that we should really look at critically. And I think it's that simple. So I will say a few words at the very end after everybody else has had the opportunity to speak. But through the chair, I do believe that the executive and some representatives from his team would like to speak on this as well.
Thanks, Councilman Schlepper. Good afternoon, council members. Brendan Doyle from the County Executive's Office here with Sabrina Roberts. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. On behalf of County Executive Chris Ronayne, I would like to give our strong and unequivocal support of ordinance number 2025-0003, introduced by Councilman Schlepper, to prohibit the harmful and discredited practice of conversion therapy on minors and vulnerable adults within Cuyahoga County. This ordinance is a critical and long overdue step in protecting the dignity, health, and safety of some of the most vulnerable members of our community. Conversion therapy is not therapy. It is a form of psychological abuse masquerading as medical treatment based on the false premise that non-heterosexual identities are pathological and in need of correction. This practice has been widely condemned by every leading medical and mental health organization in the United States, including the American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Psychiatric Association, the American Psychological Association, and the American Medical Association. Attempts to change an individual's sexual orientation or gender identity are not only ineffective, but also deeply damaging. Particularly alarming is the fact that conversion therapy disproportionately targets minors, young people who are still developing their sense of self and who are especially vulnerable to coercion, shame, and internalized stigma. By enacting this ordinance, Cuyahoga County would affirm its commitment to equity, compassion, and scientific integrity, and send a clear message that our community will not tolerate practices that aim to erase or suppress LGBTQIA+ identities. We must be a place where all people, regardless of who they are or whom they love, are protected, respected, and given the opportunity to thrive. We urge the County Council to pass ordinance number 2025-0003, and thank you again for the opportunity to speak on behalf of the executive regarding this important piece of legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Boyle. Legal representation, would you like to? I don't know. Oh, it's coming from our side. All That's Michael King. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Michael King, council staff. I'm just here to provide a brief overview of what this ordinance does mechanically, just so it's on the record and everybody understands. So generally speaking, this ordinance prohibits healthcare professionals from knowingly engaging in conversion therapy with minors or vulnerable adults, as Mr. Doyle stated. In the ordinance, conversion therapy is defined as any practice or procedure that seeks to change a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. And vulnerable adults are defined as adults who are unable to protect themselves from abuse, neglect, or exploitation due to a mental, emotional, physical, or developmental disability or condition, or due to age. So the way this would be enforced is it operates similarly to how our anti-discrimination ordinance currently works and actually functions through the same institution. So if someone believes a healthcare professional has engaged in conversion therapy, they would be able to file a complaint with the county's Human Rights Commission, which also enforces our anti-discrimination laws. The Human Rights Commission would then investigate and adjudicate the complaint if appropriate, and if they determine that a respondent has engaged in unlawful conversion therapy within the previous 3 years before the complaint was filed, they can order the respondent to cease and desist the continued practice and may assess civil penalties of up to $1,000 for a first offense or up to $5,000 for repeat offenses. And they may also award reasonable attorney's fees to a complainant who has filed the complaint. Just as with any county anti-discrimination complaint, rulings of the Human Rights Commission would be appealable to the Court of Common Pleas, so there is an appeal right in this. It's not, there's no like sort of end of the road there. But the ordinance also provides that the Director of Health and Human Services would also be required upon a finding to notify any state professional licensing entity about the violation. So if a healthcare professional were to have found to have violated the ordinance, there would be a notification to the appropriate licensing board in that respect. And then additionally, except where prohibited by federal and state law, and that gets into a more complicated question, but this ordinance also prohibits county contractors from knowingly engaging in or facilitating conversion therapy. So if you think of like our DCFS provider contracts where the kids are in county custody, this would prohibit county contractors from engaging or facilitating conversion therapy on behalf of Cuyahoga County. And violating that provision, that prohibition could result in a potential 3-year debarment through our debarment process through the Inspector General. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions regarding sort of the mechanical nuts and bolts of the ordinance. And I'd also note that at least one Human Rights Commissioner, Robert Chalupka, and Victor from our law department are here to discuss more about the role of the Human Rights Commission, how it functions generally, and also what role they would play in enforcing this ordinance.
In terms, Mr. King, in terms of DCFS or Family First Council, whatever the case may be, departments, and when we talk about the contracts, well, once this ordinance is passed, will they send it out to all of their providers that they currently contract with?
So that I think is still to be determined how that notification would be provided. This would normally be, the section that the ordinance amends is typically a section that deals with certifications that contractors need to sign off on whenever they enter into a new contract. So whether or not the county sends an affirmative notice to existing contractors on existing contracts is still to be determined. We can sort of figure that out mechanically, but at the very least, moving forward, I believe that new contracts would require a certification by prospective vendors to agree to that provision.
Okay, so we need to follow up on that because many of our contracts, we might be in first year, and they won't, I don't want anybody to get penalized if they don't know. So we can talk about how that's gonna. Any questions for Mr. King?
I don't have any questions. Do we think it's appropriate for the chair of the Human Rights Commission to kind of speak a little bit to their position and what enforcement could potentially look like if that's acceptable? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Welcome.
Thank you. For the record, my name is Rob Chalupka. I was recently elected as chair of the Human Rights Commission. My colleagues, Mark McHale and Chad Eggsbuehler, were not able to attend today, but our legal counsel will be here and has some nuts and bolts details that we can get into. We discussed this ordinance with Councilman Schlepper at our last commission meeting, and all of us gave our complete support, both to the substantive cause of the whole thing, but then also, in terms of our ability to handle any matters that would come up before us under this. The subject matter is obviously in our same wheelhouse with the other items in our jurisdiction under the anti-discrimination ordinance, and we don't have a long, extensive track record of adjudicating claims, like to the point where it gets to a hearing and an actual formal resolution along those lines, but we have no issues with the ability to process these complaints as they would come in. It's not going to create any, I imagine if it did create a huge administrative burden, we have a much larger problem than we're aware of, and this ordinance would be the first step in addressing that. So hopefully we don't see a lot of business from this, but if we did, then, all credit to Councilman Schlepper and the rest of the council, assuming this passes, for addressing, what would be a major issue. And as far as the mechanics, it would be similar to what you just heard. We would receive in the complaint. Our staff typically reviews what's submitted and forwards it on to the commissioners in terms of with a recommendation as to whether or not this falls under our jurisdiction in the first place. We make a decision from there, notify the complainant, and if necessary, serve notice to the respondent and adjudicate things from there. There is a provision in the anti-discrimination ordinance about sort of sending it to a voluntary mediation. That seems, just my guess, that seems less likely in a matter like this, because you're going to be dealing with some sort of mental health or healthcare professional who, may likely say, I didn't do that, and some advocate for a minor or vulnerable adult who's going to say, yes, you did. And I don't know how, sure, it's possible there could be some sort of settlement worked out, but I imagine that would probably be more of an actual matter to be heard before the commission than, say, some sort of employment dispute or housing or some of the other areas that we discuss. But that's about all I had. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to take those.
I had a question through the chair. Thank you for your work and also for breaking down some of the enforcement tenets and components of that. My question really surrounds, what enforcement can look like, and if you could kind of break down, there was discussion in building this ordinance. Not only does enforcement look a certain way, communities can in fact opt out. And we do understand that this is an ordinance that, for lack of a better phrase, could be a lightning rod given the political climate. So I think it's worth mentioning. But if you could kind of just shed some light on how communities could in fact opt out, I think it's important from a legal perspective to understand what that might look like.
Sure. Yes, as you pointed out, there is an opt-out provision in the anti-discrimination ordinance generally. This proposed ordinance being included in that existing law, then that would apply to this, to complaints under this as well. I mean, effectively, it would be the city council or whatever legislative body of insert suburb here or the city of Cleveland, deciding that they determined that conversion therapy was something that should be protected, or the right to engage in these practices should be something that should be protected. There is a possibility that it could swing the other way if a community felt that this wasn't enough and wanted to do something more protective on their end. They could hypothetically opt out and have, much harsher penalties for something under, that fell within their city limits, their jurisdiction. I think the excuse me, if it's not gonna happen at the federal or state level, I think that the county is a good vehicle for pursuing this, because if you did have a city opt-out, one of the things you're gonna have is, okay, where does the practitioner live? Where is their office? Where is the treatment taking place? Is there telehealth involved? Where is the patient? Where are the effects of this potentially prohibited practice actually happening? I think the broader you have that jurisdiction, the less it matters that the doctor, lives in Bay Village, practices in Avon, no, excuse me, not Avon, practices in, say, Lakewood, and the patient lives in Broadview Heights, something like that. There very well could be, and there is a case coming before the Supreme Court in their next term, discussing a state-level ordinance banning this practice. So as the next year or so goes on, there could be more noise about it from certain quarters. But, I think from what we discussed with Councilman Schlepper at our last meeting, that hasn't really come to pass locally thus far. And, if we end up in a situation where there's some sort of federal court situation, that's something we can address if and when that would happen. But in the meantime, I think that the timing of a city council or other body coming together, putting this together, and then going out on record in this part of the state saying, no, we want to opt out of this. You all are better politicians than me, but I don't foresee that coming anytime soon.
I saw Castleberry. Okay, Council President.
So, just on this point, my experience from prior county legislation is that municipalities are more likely to opt out if they feel they haven't been notified or consulted with. And so I think we could do well to take the time over the summer break to connect with all of the municipal leaders. Molly has all the contact information and can just send a general letter out and make them aware, solicit any comments, and get them involved a little bit, and that would go a long way.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you, Mr. Chalupka, for being here. One thing you did allude to earlier, you mentioned about the, if our office was overrun with complaints, we had a problem, right? Which wouldn't be a good thing. So obviously, we're trying to address a problem, but it brings to my question, are you aware, do we have data or anything that what's may be happening in Cuyahoga County with this type of practice? Or do we have an issue right now? Or, I think this is needed, but I want to say, what do we know about what's happening, what practices are happening right now in the county?
Our commission does not have any data on that I'm aware of. That being said, since this wouldn't be under our jurisdiction until this ordinance was passed, we wouldn't have been tracking it either. I will say that in general, over the last few years, we discussed at our last meeting that this I think we just got our 6th complaint of 2025 a week or two ago. So, you know, we're not exactly swimming in a dangerous sea of work of all kinds. But to my knowledge, none of those have included any references to conversion therapy or anything like that. I'm sure there are probably some of the other supporters of this bill or of the ordinance or of, you know, some of the advocacy groups, the Equality Ohio, Trans Ohio, places like that. Maybe even the LGBT Center may have access to some better data.
Got you. No, I appreciate your answer through the chair. It wasn't something I was very real aware of. It was brought to my attention, but when I find out that people would rather contemplate or commit suicide rather than go through this or live, you know, where they're not being accepted, I think we have to do something. So appreciate Councilman Slipper and the administration's support on this.
Certainly, and anecdotally, through work I've done outside the commission directly, I mean, I have several personal friends who have experienced this, you know, this treatment on their own, largely involuntarily, or maybe not necessarily knowing what they were getting into when they walked in the door. And yeah, I know people who have, you know, gotten to that point of contemplating suicide or some other drastic action just due to the impact that this has. And as was stated before, I mean, there's the reason why this is disallowed by pretty much every established medical or mental health organization around.
Thank you.
I just have one more question, if you could shed some light on, from an enforcement perspective again. And I'm asking these questions because if in fact there are challenges, it's good for us to know what that might look like in terms of what I would call an insurance policy. So when we say criminal penalties as opposed to civil penalties, right? There are, can you shed some light on the fact that there are no criminal penalties attached to this, but what civil penalties may look like and why or why not?
Correct. I mean, part of it, at heart, there's a broader jurisdictional issue about the types of laws the county is able to pass versus state law or, you know, municipal law or things like that. But in general, like, in terms of, you know, this, you're right, this would not be a criminal penalty. Nobody would be facing jail time or anything like that. This is a civil administrative penalty. You know, the complaint would come in, be reviewed, as I mentioned. We'd, you know, confirm to the complainant that they, within, I believe we have 5 business days to get back to them to confirm that they have a valid complaint. We then have to turn that around in about 2 weeks to the respondent to let them know that they've been charged with this. We offer the option of voluntary mediation. Usually that would be done through the Cleveland Metro Bar Association, who maintains a list of you know, qualified mediators that specialize in that. If the parties did not agree to accept that mediation, as I said, it's voluntary, or if that mediation was attempted and failed, then our commission would do a more thorough investigation of the facts, and then we would bring the parties before the 3 commissioners, myself and the others, and we would conduct a hearing and just get to the bottom of what was going on, and then from there we would vote on whether there was a violation and what we felt an appropriate sanction for that would be. The options listed in the ordinance include a cease and desist letter, and as I believe it's $1,000 fine for the first offense, going up to I want to say $5,000 for subsequent, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 offenses. Again, that structure was put in place not necessarily anticipating, you know, I mean, I could hypothesize that one medical professional could have several people come in, and then that could be viewed as several counts against them. whether that would be handled as, one big administration or each one separately, I think, we'd have to make that kind of procedural determination whenever those complaints came in. But then from there, as was mentioned earlier, the decision is appealable to the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas, which then, of course, from there is hypothetically appealable all the way to the Ohio Supreme Court. As I said, in the history of our commission, we haven't had anything get close to that level, so I don't know, I don't know exactly what the impact of a decision like that would be. But I mean, if we had that, if this was passed by the fall, we had a complaint come in whenever the effective date would be, I think we'd still be a long way out from seeing what that part of the process would look like. I think the intention in enacting the ordinance was more so, let's bring this to the attention, excuse me, of the parties, try to get them in a room together to work it out. If that doesn't work, then we're going to issue some sort of sanction, and hopefully that's enough of a deterrent to end it there.
Right, I had a couple questions, I guess one for Mike King and one for you, sir. Enforcement on, so say we're dealing with a lot of youth in this regard. So I don't know, is the enforcement still in place if a parent of a youth, the parent wants the youth to go through this conversion therapy? And so can anyone speak to that?
So the enforcement is really about it's regulation of healthcare professionals, right? So it's about treatment, or so-called treatment, I guess, of minors by healthcare professionals. So ultimately, this comes down to the way enforcement works is a complaint process. So you're going to need somebody who recognizes that this is happening and files a complaint with the Human Rights Commission. That could be a parent. It could theoretically be, a relative, another relative of some kind, who's just bringing it to the attention of the commission. So it is fundamentally not about a sort of parents' rights, parent-child relationship. It's about regulating healthcare professionals.
And my second question to you, Mr. King, is the outside agencies that receive subsidies from us, are they under this agreement as well?
I believe, pursuant to the terms of the provisions dealing with county contractors, yes, they would be, because we have subsidy agreements in place with most, if not all, of those entities.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councilman Hauser.
I had a question similar to Councilman Castleberry's question. So I know you spoke about knowing people personally. Do you know where conversion therapy is at, maybe like on a national level? Have you guys have any research or know any, as a whole, where conversion therapy is at nationally?
It is, I know that it is unfortunately a common enough practice that there have been ordinances or state laws passed like this in, off the top of my head, I don't recall. I want to say it's about 20 states and maybe over 100 cities or counties. I don't know. I know that there's been enough research to have organizations like the American Academy of Pediatrics and other groups like that to be able to come out and say this, this shouldn't happen. Our people licensed to practice in this field should not be engaged in this treatment. So it's settled in that sense, and I don't have specific numbers for you. I know that there is, again, everything I have personally is anecdotal, and I think a lot of it starts with, it does, to address the point about the parents, it does start sometimes with families not being as accepting of a child and where they're at. But in terms of, how pervasive this is, whether X% of all LGBTQ folks experience this. I don't have that exact data for you. I'm sure we could probably find it somewhere. Also, I just wanted to take a second to mention, since a large proportion of the complaints under this would likely be involving minors, we have started discussions within our commission of amending our bylaws to create a separate complaint process, just in terms of the paperwork and administration of that, with more of an emphasis on confidentiality. Because our standard process right now is essentially public record. And, if we're dealing with young kids and potential disputes between family members, we would want to keep that as redacted to the best we can under the law. So.
Any other questions for these two gentlemen? Okay, so we're going to have anyone that would like to come up, Madam Clerk, and speak to this ordinance? Anyone in the audience?
Mr. West?
Hi, good afternoon again. I'll briefly reintroduce myself. My name is Brandon West, a grassroots advocate from Lorraine, working across Ohio to help protect LGBTQI+ youth from the harm of conversion therapy. I came to Cuyahoga County with my small grassroots team to help ban the harmful practice. Drafted an ordinance, and with the help from Councilman Schlepper and the legal department, I believe we've built something meaningful. I'm here today to speak about the ordinance and some data, but also about people. With how much was amazingly discussed in depth about the ordinance already, it seems like I'll be reiterating a few things, but also answering questions that were touched on. But I don't have any flashy presentation with me. However, I still want to delve into the harms of conversion therapy with you all in a kind and educational manner. Conversion therapy is a dangerous practice that attempts to forcibly change someone's sexual orientation or gender identity away from being LGBTQIA+, being born the way they were. It is not to get confused with gender-affirming care, which is supportive, not coercive, like conversion therapy, as it's been discredited by every major medical and psychological association in the U.S., including, as touched on before, the American Psychological Association and the American Medical Association, to name just a couple. These aren't old fringe therapies that were banned in the 1950s, which is a common response I get. They're still happening, it's still dangerous, and it's still harmful, because the result is anxiety, depression, PTSD, and tragically, in way too many cases, suicide. Banning conversion therapy is also a health issue. When we allow this practice to continue, we increase the burden on our crisis centers, hospitals, and long-term mental health systems. Conversion therapy and its associated harms cost the United States an estimated $9.23 billion annually, according to a peer-reviewed study by researchers from the Trevor Project. Further, a peer-reviewed study by the Trevor Project's researchers, published in the American Journal of Public Health, found that LGBTQ youth who underwent conversion therapy were more than twice as likely to report having attempted suicide. To answer Councilman Castleberry's previous question, out of 85 LGBTQI+ respondents who reported having been through conversion therapy, 53% said the experience occurred in Cuyahoga, Lorraine, Lake, or Geauga counties. This information was from the Greater Cleveland and LGBTQ+ Community Needs Assessment. So we can act to prevent and stop that harm, or be forced to deal with the far greater costs of trauma now and down the road, both financially and socially. This is a crisis with loud consequences, with Ohio ranking 5th in the nation for these dangerous practices. The ordinance, which has been briefly touched on before, that has been proposed, protects minors and vulnerable adults by prohibiting licensed providers from attempting to fix their sexual orientation or gender identity. Violation would be routed through the existing Human Rights Commission, as mentioned. It's enforceable, legally sound, and modeled after other successful bans throughout Ohio, but highly tailored for Cuyahoga County. And now, Cuyahoga County has the chance to become the first county in Ohio to formally ban conversion therapy, not just city by city, but countywide. That action would not only protect folks here, it would set an example for the rest of the state, raise awareness, and show that both youth and survivors of conversion therapy, that they are cared for, supported, and loved. This is not just my solo effort alone either, and while I may have started in Lorain alone, I no longer lead alone. I've gathered support from leaders, mental health professionals, parents, students, and LGBTQI+ organizations like BBH Pride, the Cleveland Stonewall Democrats, the LGBTQ+ Center here in Cleveland, Equality Ohio, both the national and local Ohio chapter of Free Mom Hugs, the Trevor Project, and so many more. Additionally, mayors from Akron, Athens, Reynoldsburg, Westerville, Dayton, Toledo, Lorain, and more have signed onto a joint letter I wrote urging bans like this as well, saying, quote, "We encourage other cities across Ohio to consider similar measures. Banning conversion therapy is about public health, safety, and standing on the side of kindness. Together, we can build a future where every young person in Ohio knows that they are seen, valued, and protected," end quote. People are watching Cuyahoga. I want you to lead. We want you to lead. And with that, I respectfully ask that this committee further Ordinance 2025-003 to the second reading. But I am here to answer questions, provide resources, and work alongside you as an advocate, but also as a caring, kind, and educational partner in protecting the well-being of your residents, particularly LGBTQI+ youth, because safety, dignity, and freedom should never be up for debate.
Thank you. Any questions for Madam Clerk? Is there anyone else in the audience that's coming up?
Madam Chair, we've received no other additional requests to speak on this matter.
Ms. Lou is raising her hand. Is that a?
I did not know this was asked, so after him, may I also speak?
Yes. So, any other questions for Mr. West? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Lou?
I would like to, this is Lou, I would like to supplement some of the information. Because when people, even they watch this live, when they hear statistics, they still do not really know how severe this kind of conversion therapies can do to people. Lots of people, when they got this kind of therapy when they were younger, even if they had suicide attempt, they probably did not succeed, so they still exist as a residents here now. Where I stay, lots of time I can hear from people's conversation with me in the conversation together. Lots of people, we know they have multiple suicide attempts in the past. They have a mental health issue. Some of them do go to see doctors or therapists now, or maybe in the past. However, I can tell you, lots of them also mention, maybe not all together in the same conversation at once. Some of them did suffer from the conversion therapy they got when they were younger. These therapies actually cause their mind now being twisted. So we will see the people that maybe being lesbian, but these people may hate transgender people because transgender people actually got the opportunity to do certain things to improve their own situation. Of course, in the homeless shelter right now, the people have to be older than 18 to begin with. And lots of people at the older age now, they were in closet, they were not had a proper outlet, they did not have counselors in school who understood these kind of things, because these things were not considered norm. They were considered as a fancy trend, lifestyle. People did not understand these things. So when these people were younger, they were forced into conversion therapies. And nowadays, the reason they have lots of behavior issues, it's all the damage from those therapies and other life experiences, negative ones, they encounter as well. So I really wish this legislation will be passed as soon as possible, protecting everybody in Cuyahoga County, so people here can grow up here, can go to school here, can work here, can really keep their life here. So we will not lose precious life, we will not lose population. This is important to us. That's why I even mentioned other conversion therapies. For example, you force left-handed people to be right-handed, all those kind of things. All these kind of therapies, they leave traumas on people. And sometimes it's very hard to remedy when these people are older because they already have a hatred, anger in their mind. They cannot control their temper lots of times. Now they are labeled troublemakers, this and that. That's because their younger time were traumatized and no way to get help at that time. That's why right now, as a grown-ups, sometimes they hate the world and they hate themselves. This is a very horrible tragedy in humanity. I wish we, Cuyahoga County, at least can do a right thing at one time. Sure, we hope we can do the right thing continuously to help all our residents to stay here, you know, to keep this as their home, to make this county prosperous. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lowe. So I would just like to turn it over to the sponsor in a minute, but I would like to, Madam Clerk, add my name to it, to this legislation. Councilman Schlepper.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for your support as well. I just wanted to speak to some of the statistics here in terms of what I'll call the appetite for this type of legislation. So, and I'll keep it brief because I know folks have a lot of things going on this afternoon, but as it sits right now, 13 municipalities in the state of Ohio have active bans in place. All 6 of our largest cities, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, and then our mid-sized cities, Toledo, Akron, and Dayton as well, have full bans in place. Out of those 13 municipalities, 11 were passed unanimously, with mixed parties in some of these spaces as well. So it shows that this transcends party affiliation as well. The population of Ohio is 11.88 million. So with those 13 municipalities, about 2.47 million people, or 21% of Ohio, is currently protected. As we've seen with these types of things, it becomes a patchwork relatively quickly. We saw this with the legalization of LGBT marriages, that it was a patchwork across the state, which really just lends itself to confusion and further issues. So with Cuyahoga County, if that ban were to pass, 3.24 million, or 27% of Ohio, would then be protected. As it sits right now, Cuyahoga County has 3 municipalities that have bans in place: Lakewood, Cleveland Heights, and the city of Cleveland itself, which is totaling 37% of our county currently has protections. So again, in an effort to remove some of these patchworks that we're seeing, I think it's important that we, again, advance this. The other thing to keep in mind is there are 24 states in the United States that have full bans at the state level. 3 of those states ban the use of federal and state dollars for this use. Other counties that have had bans in place before the state did were counties like Erie County, which is the city of Buffalo, and other counties in Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, Virginia, and Illinois. So again, I think it's very important. There are municipalities in more conservative states: Louisville, Kentucky; Lexington, Kentucky; Charleston, West Virginia; Ann Arbor, Michigan; and Wheeling, West Virginia, all have bans in their communities as well. So the bottom line is that the appetite is there, and we're seeing it grow, not only in our state, but federally. So as Mr. West has mentioned, this is an opportunity for this body to lead, and lead we shall. So I just wanted to thank Mr. West and his team, first of all, for bringing this to me. I am merely a vehicle for this ordinance. Him and his team are the real genesis here, but Part of why I ran for this seat was to protect people. Our number one job as individuals on this council is to protect and support the residents of this county. And this falls directly in line with that role and what it is that we are supposed to do, and that deeply held responsibility that I know not only myself but all of my colleagues take very, very seriously. So I will close in thanking really everybody in this room. Thank you to the executive and his team for the support here and the visibility as well. We understand that this is a contentious issue. We understand that the climate federally is cumbersome. So I am thankful for everybody here for taking the risk and leading with their hearts.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, is there anyone else signed in? I know for this legislation, it takes 3 readings due to it being an ordinance, so it will be passed out of committee hopefully today, and final passage should be September 9th at the council meeting. Mr. Pepper, would you like to make a motion?
I would like to make a motion.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Schlepper, seconded by Miller. All in favor for ordinance 02025-0003 to the full council under second reading, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
And I was just going to say, I commend Councilman Schlepper's leadership on this, and please ask my name as well.
Thank you. Any miscellaneous business? Seeing none, hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.